Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. BroadwayWorld and Screen Actors Guild Foundation have partnered for a filmed conversation Q&A series. This special event, which is coming from the New School, is a conversation with the star and director of the new film, 6 Dance Lessons in 6 Weeks. Two-time Emmy Award-winning director Arthur Allan Seidelman and legendary actress whose career spans over 60 years on film, television, and theater, Miss Gena Rowlands. Enjoy.
6 dance lessons in 6 weeks, starting with a triple step to your right. Good, Mrs. Harrison.
Hello?
I can file a complaint.
Ida, I'm dancing.
All alone? Like a crazy woman?
No, I have a partner.
Tango is perhaps the most sensual of the Latin dances.
It was created by the gaucho of Argentina, who got his much-needed R&R by
Picking up a flusy in the local taberna, dragging her around the dance floor for a few measures before laying her.
Do I have to pay to listen to your two-bit commentaries?
Just gotta get used to my sense of humor.
Do I, Mr. Minetti?
Michael, please. This puts us on a first-name basis.
No, it doesn't. I'm Lily Harrison. I'd like to speak to the manager, please.
Regarding?
Regarding him, this foul-mouthed, dancing loony you sent to my home.
You seem like a compassionate woman, Mrs. Harrison. I mean, not really, but in case I'm wrong, I want you to know that I need this job.
Why resume our usual pattern of lying and arguing?
Because that's what we do. Every relationship has a foundation. That's ours. May I have this dance?
Delighted, sir. If you say your real age out loud, your face hears you.
She's a little moody today. Perhaps she needs the seduction of the dance to open her heart.
It's gonna take a lot more than that.
So we're starting with the swing.
I love to swing. Don't take too much sun. It ages you.
Too late.
This is Mrs. Harrison.
Is this young man treating you well?
He is 1 in a million.
Oh!
I don't have the energy for any of those jiggly dances today.
Have a cup of coffee and tighten your bra strap.
Jenna, how did this film come about for you, and what interested you in the project and the script?
Well, I loved the script from the beginning. Though when I read it, it was a play, a 2-character play, and it's been expanded a lot in the movie. But I'm kind of sick of movies right now. They're so bloody and violent, and I was really very happily surprised to read this one, and I like the fact that there's so much comedy in it, and I never get to do comedy, so I was very happy. And then one of my favorite directors in the whole world was doing it, so what could I say?
And Arthur, tell me about, you directed this many times on stage. What was it like turning this into a film?
It was the fulfillment of a number of dreams. The first dream was getting to do it with Jenna. When I first read the play, Richard Alfieri happily sent me the script, and I read the play and loved it immediately. And I initially, my first thought was that Jenna should do the play, but she's a difficult woman. And Jenna did not feel she wanted to do theater after having not done theater for many years. She was didn't feel she wanted to take on 8 performances a week. So very happily, I mean, I was able to get the script to Uta Hagen, who was, of course, a brilliant stage actress. But I said to Richard Alfieri, and Richard Alfieri said to me, I guess in order to get Gena Rowlands to do this role, which we both wanted desperately, we're going to have to make a film. And we did, but it was the fulfillment of that dream, of the dream of having Jenna play Lily. It was also the fulfillment of the vision of the play in many ways. The play is a two-character play. A lot of the characters, Cunard, Susie, who is Cunard's assistant, Robert, a lot of those, the lady downstairs, a lot of those characters are referred to in the play, but you don't get to meet them. So the opportunity of fulfilling, when a brilliant actor is having a conversation with someone who isn't there, you envision what they're going to look like. Well, I had the opportunity of making them what I wanted them to look like, and putting together an extraordinary cast to fulfill the image, the visions of all those other characters. So it really was, in many ways, a fulfillment, both creatively in terms of working with Jenna, and artistically in terms of fulfilling the image of the play.
Yeah. Jenna, what a beautiful character of Lily Harrison. What do you love the most about her, and what do you admire about the character when you first read her and playing her?
Well, she had, of course, had lost her husband and her child. And you don't think this is going to be a comedy, do you? But she just refused to lie down for the despair of it. She knew that at her age, that she just had a few years herself, and she was just going to take advantage of the time to have some fun. Her husband was a very conservative minister and not a lot of fun, but she was just going to do it, and so she moved to Miami, and where there is a lot of fun, and the museums and the theater and all of the things that she was an outsider to, really. And I was impressed with a person who would not let something as terrible just ruin their lives. And I liked that about her. I liked the fact that she was going to go and have some fun and things. But I did sympathize with her in that she was embarrassed that she couldn't dance. And so when she got to Miami, she called a dance place and got someone to come teach her privately, because she just didn't want someone to see this old lady tottering around and not knowing any of the steps. And so that's how she and Cheyenne got together, which was not a perfect meet. They were as opposite as two people can be. And yet, because of his need for a job after his tragedy, and my need to fulfill the rest of my life, we sort of put up with each other at the first. I like that. I think people should put up with each other. And if we all put up with each other a little bit more, that things would work out for the best.
Beautiful. And you two got to work together again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happily.
Because talk about, you had done Grace and
Glory.
Yeah. With Diane Lane.
With Diane Lane. And working with Jenna is an incredible experience. Jenna is a true artist because she is the most. It's not possible for Gena Rowlands to have a dishonest moment on screen or on stage. Her sense of truth is so. Her sense of truth is so total. is so complete, is so vibrant, is so alive, that she infuses every moment of a character's life with truth, with honesty, and with an openness which is just incredible to witness. It's a rare experience to be able to direct someone whose honesty is unparalleled, and that's Gena Rowlands. She is the most gifted, magical artist I've ever worked with.
Would you marry me?
You're married.
Oh, yeah.
You keep forgetting, you're married. He's right back there. He beat me up.
And Jenna, talk about working with Arthur again.
Well, I would love to work with Arthur anytime. Anytime. It's one of my favorites in the world, and he's so kind with his actors. He really, you do love your actors, don't you? Or you just put him on a show?
Most of the time.
Yeah. And
yes,
it's easy and fun, and you look forward to going to work every day.
You know, Jenna, the chemistry between you and Cheyenne Jackson is perfect in this film.
I like him very much.
What was it like working with Cheyenne? Talk about working together.
I didn't know him at all, and I'd never seen him perform. And I'd heard good things about him. But what I liked about him was that he's a very subtle actor. You can tell what he's thinking, everything that's going on emotionally with him, without him making a big deal out of it. It was a great pleasure to work with him.
What Jenna and Cheyenne both have is a remarkable generosity. They give of themselves to each other, and that's something every actor needs to do. The scene is not about you; it's about the other person, and that giving, that openness, is what creates that chemistry. What creates that beautiful symbiotic relationship that develops. They were both supportive of each other, open to each other, welcomed each other's instincts, and it just made for beautiful music.
Yeah. You know, you're also a celebrated stage director. And I know that a lot of film directors, some like to do a lot of rehearsals, some don't like to do much of any to sort of keep it, the spontaneity in there. What was the rehearsal process like, Jenna, with you and Cheyenne, and how did you work on rehearsals? Was there a lot of rehearsal? Was there a little rehearsal?
We had 2 weeks of rehearsal in Los Angeles before we went to Budapest. Yes, Budapest. Where else would you do a film that takes place in Florida?
Isn't that wild? Did you know it was shot in Budapest?
It was the obvious choice. We thought about Helsinki, but Budapest won. We had 2 weeks of rehearsal in Los Angeles, and then 1 week in Budapest, and then of course before you do each scene, you warm it up. It's a challenge always to get the actors to the point where the boil is about to boil, to get it to the brink of the maximum before you turn the camera on. And with Jenna and Cheyenne, it was fun, it was a pleasure, it was exciting. But that's what the rehearsal procedure was like.
Yeah. You know, we've collected some questions from the audience, and one that strikes my mind right away is someone asked, how do you know when you found a character? When you're working on a character and working on a film, how do you know you're there and you're ready to film?
Well, John gave me one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever had. We were doing Woman Under the Influence, and it had a very tricky beginning. And I couldn't quite figure it. And so I said, John, could you help me a minute? And he said, sure. And I said, I don't quite understand what my character is doing he said, Jenna, stop right there. He said, I wrote the film, and I wrote it with you in mind for this character, and you read it, and you accepted it, Now do it. He said,
That's perfect.
that has guided me a lot.
Love that. I want to go back to the beginning of your careers, both of yours, for a moment. Jenna, I read where you said, acting is the only thing I ever wanted to do. Tell me why, and what was that defining moment for you when you knew acting was all you ever wanted to do?
I think I was born thinking that, or maybe I was sickly as a child. I didn't go to school till about the 6th grade. And there was nothing to help you with it. I mean, it's a long time ago. There's antibiotics. There was nothing. You just got over it when you got over it. But so I filled my time. My mother taught me to read when I was very young, and she read to me, and I got into a sort of obsessive habit of reading, and looking back on it now, I think that must have influenced me. It just seemed to me, as an adult, that I always wanted to do it. But I think that those books and characters and figuring it all out must have started me on my way in before I knew it.
Yeah. And Arthur, for you, that defining moment for you when you knew you wanted to do something in this business?
Actually, I remember, I think my father said, go into show business. Actually, what he said was go into the shoe business, and I misunderstood him. But there was actually a defining moment. I thought I was going to be a writer. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but I wanted to immediately be Clarence Darrow and didn't want any intermediate steps. But I had taken a directing class at Whittier College, where I got my bachelor's. And I directed a scene from Menagerie. And the scene where the glass animal, Tom has broken Laura's little glass animals. And I had designed this sort of crossfade as Tom goes out on the balcony for one of the speeches, and his sister is putting together her little glass animals, which are now in pieces. And there was a beautiful crossfade that happened with the lights, and two very lovely actors who were playing the roles for me. And this beautiful blue haze was created on the stage. And it was such a lovely, lovely moment, and I was overwhelmed by a sense of having created that moment, having at least put the pieces together that allowed that moment to exist. And I had a feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment in that moment that I had never experienced before. It just felt full and real and gratifying. And I guess I've been chasing that blue haze ever since.
Jenna, you have given us so many legendary performances, including all of them with your husband, the brilliant John Cassavetes.
There's something that really needs to be said here about John and Jenna. Not only were they brilliant creators, but they together created the American independent film.
Yes, and thank you for that.
If John and Jenna had not gone out into the wilderness of a studio-controlled environment and built a road for independent artists, we would not be sitting here having just witnessed that film. Yeah. John really made it possible for independent directors to create and to get distribution and for our work to be seen. So we each and every one of us owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude, and Jenna with him.
Well, going back to one of the many memorable performances of yours that stands out for me is Opening Night. Absolutely brilliant. how did you film the scene where you go to Joan Blondell's hotel room and get possessed and slam yourself into that door violently? It looks so real.
It was.
Independent filmmaking.
Yeah, it limped off of the scene.
Yes.
But she was so funny, too, Joan Blondell, because she'd worked within the system for many, many years. And when she first came to do the part in John's picture, she would look around and she'd say, and I said, can I get you something? You know, she said, no, I can't tell if people are talking to me or they're talking to each other or we're talking for the camera. She said, and it's true. There was a great deal of difference in that. And she very quickly got onto it and was very pleased with it. But I thought it must be really, really hard to sit there and think, is he talking to me? Or is it? But we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. You know, you are both legends in your fields, but what is it like for each of you when you worked with legends? Like when you worked with Bette Davis, what was that like?
Well, she was my favorite actress. I think because she was so independent. And when I was young, you were sort of taught to be polite and quiet and, you know, hush and just... So you weren't prepared for Betty. And she would... So when I did the show with her, I instinctively knew that she didn't want you to mention any show she had ever done. I don't know why, but I could feel it. And so she would, after she began trying to kind of, you know, find out what you had thought of Dark Victory and things. What I had thought of Dark Victory in my dreams. And, but she had funny little habits. She was terribly mean to the cinematographer. And he was such a nice little guy.
I've been very fortunate to work with people whom I idolized before I got to work with them, and I had the privilege of working with Tennessee Williams for a lengthy period of time. And I do remember the first conversation I had with him. I was sitting in his hotel room here in New York, and I was having a conversation with Tennessee about the play we were in the process of creating. And my inner dialogue was, I'm talking to Tennessee Williams. That's Tennessee Williams, and I'm talking to him. And what's even more remarkable, he's talking to me. And then you kind of get, I mean, the same thing happened. I've had a close relationship with Jerry Herman, and I remember the first time I sat with Jerry, and all I could thinking of, that's the man who wrote Hello, Dolly. And you then get over that awe. You never really get over it entirely. I'm still in awe of her. But you do reach the point where you're then working, and you're working. Every artist is vulnerable. Every artist is insecure. Every artist needs reassurance. Every artist needs encouragement, and that's true whether your name is Tennessee Williams or Herman Smirk. And when you're working with someone and you join in a creative process, you get past the awe and get to the work at some point.
Wonderful. Jenna, all your three children are in the film business.
I'm very happy that they're in it because It's just a very congenial thing for a family to kind of all be in the same business, and you know.
And you worked with Nick on a few movies, Unhook the Stars, and that beautiful movie, The Notebook.
That was considered the chick flick. It was actually called a chick flick. I thought, well, I can take that. I'm a chick, and but I thought it was a little unfair. I thought the movie was a little deeper than that, but and it had those two young actors, Ryan and Rachel, and they were marvelous. And Nick was, again, very easy with all of them, very, very happy with it. And we, then the chick flick had a surprising side. The chicks came to see it and went home and grabbed their husbands by the throat and said, "You're going to see this movie." And so they did. And then they'd come out crying. And it was very strange because it became quite popular with guys too.
Another question is, my favorite film of yours is Gloria. Gloria fans? I would love to know if there is something special that occurred during the making of that film that you would share. Thank you, someone named Madeline.
Well, that movie was not written for me. That movie was written for a very well-known star. And then she turned it down. And I had read it, and I thought, my God, how's anybody turning down such a wonderful part? But she said that her audience felt that she was more glamorous than that story. She thought it was too maternal. I thought, well, it's a point of view, but I said, and then John's agent said, why doesn't Jenna do it? John said no, she wouldn't be interested. He wasn't interested in it at all. He liked more serious films. And he thought that I would have the good sense to turn it down too. But I loved it. And I don't know when I've had more fun. It was a comedy.
Jenna and Gloria taught us all how to call a cab.
Arthur, there's a question for you.
Yes.
You work in all mediums, stage, screen, and television. Do you prefer one to the other?
I prefer the one I'm doing when I'm doing it. They all, each medium has its glories. Theater is transient, but that's what's beautiful about it, is that it's transient. Film is more permanent, and that's what's beautiful about film, that it's more permanent. But each is beautiful in its own way, and I'm a storyteller. My job is to say, this is about these people, and let me tell you a story about these people. And whatever medium I'm in becomes my favorite medium for that moment.
Yeah. Jenna, you started out wanting to be a stage actress, I believe, having a career in the theater. Was there any point during your career that you missed not doing stage or wanted to come back to the theater?
Well, yes, at the beginning there was, because John just fell in love with making independent films. Yeah. And it was a sweeping movement in our family, because I don't know who I thought were going to be the Lunts or something on stage, but it didn't happen. And then, as I have worked between the two of them, I really came to like film. I think that you can express more without getting out there and selling it, which you have to do on stage. They've got to be able to hear you up there. And generally, I find that not as appealing as film. So I've turned myself around.
And that's why I couldn't get her to do the play of Six Dances. I told you she was difficult.
My final question for both of you is, what is the best bit of advice that you've been given that you still live by today?
Oh my gosh. I had the great privilege and pleasure of studying with, getting to know, and being a friend of a brilliant man named Sanford Meisner. And Sandy preached truth and he talked of the theater as a temple, as a place of honesty, truth, and dedication. And he taught me to honor that. And I carry it with me all the time. To be very frank about what Sandy told me, the theater is a temple. Don't piss in the temple. Honor it, treat it with love and truth. And I try to keep that with me.
I think for an actor, because I don't direct and I don't write, but for an actor or an actress, if you're doing film, relax. Just relax and do it. Like John said, we'll do it. But you can see everything on film so well. You can tell when a person is pressing too hard or trying to do something when all you have to do is know your character and be comfortable with it and then relax and do it.
And you notice when Jenna talks about a character she's played, she doesn't talk about Lily as someone separate from her. She talks about Lily as being her. And that's the beauty of an artist like Gena Rowlands. She and the character become one. And she is then totally committed, totally truthful, totally open to that character's life and that character's being. She becomes one with the character. Then you can relax.
Beautiful. And I want to thank you two for one of the most magical evenings I have spent doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.